This was a once-in-a-lifetime type experience for me. I just returned from Vail, Colorado, where I was invited by Oris to preview some of their upcoming watches, some of their upcoming designs for 2022. And I will say these are not all of the new releases that Oris has planned for this year. We can expect to see other announcements later on in the year, but I had hands-on with multiple new models and recent announcements, from the Big Crown Pointer Date in full bronze to the Servo Volante, the sustainable deer leather strap and pouch that are found on the 38mm gradient dial stainless steel Big Crown Pointer Date, to what I think is probably the star of the show for this announcement, the hand-painted cloisonné enamel dial of the Sun Wukong Artist Edition of the Aquis. It was great to have hands-on with these different designs. And I will say, I will be doing separate videos on each of these watches, the Big Crown Pointer Date in bronze, the Servo Volante, and the Sun Wukong Artist Edition. So if you would like to see me go, a little bit more into detail with my thoughts and my analysis on these, these new designs, stay tuned for those videos. They will be dropping within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm looking forward to sharing, the macro shots and the wrist rolls of those new announcements. Now, in this video, I'd like to talk more about the overall experience and what we did in my interview that I had with Rolf Studer, who is the CEO of Oris, who came over from Switzerland, who put the trip together. And that was really fun. And I talked with him about what it means to be independent and how important that is to Oris, because I think as watch enthusiasts, that means a lot to us to have an independent Swiss brand doing things their own way, going their own way, so to speak. And then I also shared some wish list type items with him that we would like to see as watch enthusiasts from Oris, like a quick adjust clasp, a true GMT movement, more anti-reflective treatment on their sports models, those types of things. And I will share some of that interview here in this video, but I won't share all of it. And it really comes down to the fact that I'm picky. And, we were sitting down in a hotel. There were other patrons in the area, and some of the audio just didn't come out very well. It was after a lunch that we had, after we got, photographs and time with the new releases. So I'm going to share some of the clips that I feel, are up to it, but it's just my pickiness that's going to keep me from sharing the entirety of the interview. But it was really great to sit down with Rolf and to hear his philosophy on design and what he would like to do with Oris moving forward. That was really, really cool. Now, overall, this was just an amazing trip. It was a once-in-a-lifetime type experience for me, an amazing location in Vail, Colorado, in January, in the height of winter in the Rocky Mountains. We got the snow. The alpine environment was just picturesque. It was so beautiful. And I mentioned I met Rolf, the CEO of Oris. I also met the CEO of Oris in North America, VJ Geronimo, the director of marketing, Josh Shanks. And I think it's important to get to know the team behind the brand that you enjoy. It adds a little bit as a watch enthusiast. So that was really cool. And not only meeting the team behind Oris, but meeting the other editors and writers and photographers and podcasters that were invited to cover these new releases on the trip. To meet people that I'm familiar with. I've listened to their podcasts, or I've read their articles, or seen their photographs. It was really cool to see, faces to the names and to get to know them a little bit and to share the experience with them. That was an absolute blast. Now, we had a choice of different activities while we were out there. We could go skiing, we could go snowshoeing, we could take a spa day. I've never been snowshoeing, so I opted for that. And that one was really interesting. That was fun. The meals were absolutely fantastic. And I'm back on, trying to eat healthy and dropping some more weight. So it was fun to have some absolutely great meals, with great people, looking at great watches. Again, once in a lifetime type experience. And Oris was even thoughtful enough to include some very cool gifts. I came home with a sweater that has the Oris logo embroidered on the sleeve. I came home with an Oris branded bag, a watch roll, done in sustainable deer leather, the same watch roll that would come with the Servo Volante, and also a bronze fountain pen. And this is my first fountain pen. Really thoughtful, really cool. Really couldn't have been a more enjoyable event. Now, what model stood out? I'm going to answer that question, and then we're going to get to the interview with Rolf Studer. And I've gone back and forth on this one because, they all looked good, especially in person with, the lighting, the colors, the different options that are available. But I think for me, it would have to be the Bordeaux or the blue dial on the full bronze Big Crown pointer date. I mentioned that this design is Oris' longest serving design. And the fact that they're really branching out in terms of material and color, in this age in 2022, I think adds to the history of this model. And I can't tell, I don't know, I'm having a hard time choosing between the two because they look so good. And the other thing that I'm trying to keep in mind is how the dial will look when the bronze patinas, because it's not always going to stand, bright and red like this is. You're going to get some patina over time. And the nice thing is the patina doesn't look moldy green, it's more of a dark stain, a discoloration. And I just wonder how, the dials will look over time. I'm sure they'll look great, but those were the two that really stood out to me personally. Now, that being said, let's get to the interview here. Again, I'm going to just do a couple segments from my interview, the sections where the audio is best and we have, less interruptions, so to speak, or background noise. And I hope you enjoy the video. Stay tuned for reviews, specific reviews of the Big Crown pointer date in bronze, the Servo Volante, and the hand-painted Cloisonné enamel dial of the Sun Wukong Artist Edition. Thanks, guys. What does it mean to be independent?
It means a lot to us, and actually it is what really makes us. We are independent not only from a group, we are also independent from a bank, but most of all, being independent is a state of mind. It means that you have the time to do what is right, that you take the liberty to release a product when it's done, and that you just do the things that you believe move the brand in the right direction. It's the luxury of common sense.
So there's a lot of things that are very exciting as a watch enthusiast. And then there are some things that we would love to see implemented from your brand. And one of them is like a quick adjust clasp on say the Aquas like we're wearing today.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've considered as a brand? Where I know this has a dive extension, has micro adjustment holes, but something that you don't need a tool to do it. Have you looked into that?
Well, our Pro Diver line that has that adjustment on the clasp.
On the rubber, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
What about the bracelet though?
It is something we hear.
Okay.
It is something we work on.
Okay.
And let's see what we come out with.
Yes, that's what I want to hear. Another thing is, I've watched. You came out with the Caliber 400, and then you've kind of expanded it a little bit with the pointer date, subsidiary seconds. I'd love to see a true GMT from a fan's perspective because there's a void in the market. Like Rolex does it, Grand Seiko does it. I mean, I think there's one from ETA, but it's in very few watches. There's a void for a true GMT. Is that something that you could consider looking into?
Well, with Caliber 400, we have expanded quite quickly, right?
Yeah.
401 with Carl Bashir just in January after we released the movement in October, and then 403 in June with the Holstein edition, then later with the Tuxedo Blue Dial as a standard model. And you can see from there that we really want to express ourselves with that movement. The 403 is the most signature Oris complication, pointer date, small second.
Yeah.
We've done that for many decades. And now to have it back with the modern qualities of Caliber 400s and that very classic Oris face, it's just, I just love that.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a pipeline full of things that we are working on.
All right.
GMT obviously is something that we have been thinking about.
Good.
I can't tell you more at this time,
Sure.
but it's clear that a GMT could complement what we do nicely.
I agree.
Thank you, Bruce. And we appreciate that input and that dialogue very much. The community is what made us to what we are today. We were always a watch for the watch collector, always for a person into watches.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the last few years with social media and all these digital possibilities, that community helped us to really bring the name out, to grow, and we're very grateful for that, and we truly appreciate the dialogue.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for spending a couple minutes with me, Rolf. I appreciate it. Again, and thanks for having me out here in Colorado. This has been a blast. So
thank you. Thank you for being with us.